Hey guys, happy Wednesday or Tuesday if you're a patron listening to this a day early. I just wanted to pop on here real quick and give a quick little intro for this episode with some exciting news, which is that Katy had her critter. And we're going to post that on Instagram, so be on the lookout for a very cute picture. So she's out, obviously. She's got a baby now. So this week starts our first week of guest co-hosts. The episode's a little shorter, takes a little bit of time, I am finding, to kind of find a new rhythm with someone new when you've been doing the podcast with a different person for 2 years. Bear with us for a little bit. Jenna, who's coming on, is my best friend. She's going to be on a couple more episodes, so you'll hear her more. But I just want to give you a heads up. This is the start of a new season. Not really. Not a podcast season. It's a new season in life. For the next several episodes, you'll be hearing some new voices, and we appreciate you guys sticking in there with us. And we'll see you guys soon we'll see you. I'll see you every week, but Katy misses you, I know. And the both of us will see everyone soon. She's doing well. Her critter is adorable. I can't wait for you guys to see pictures of him. Yeah. So enjoy the episode and we'll see you next week. You're listening to The Tales We Tell, a podcast about spooky stories, unsolved mysteries, and local lore. I'm your host, Hannah Parch.
And I'm Jenna.
Welcome.
Hi.
Yeah, Katy's not here. Katy is officially out for baby reasons. Mm-hmm. And this is my best friend, Jenna.
Hi, everyone.
Sometimes I just refer to her as my best friend, and then she gets mad that I don't name her by name.
It's very true. She just calls me her friend.
My friend.
The first, 50 podcasts.
My friend, Jenna. My friend. My best friend. Whatever. I'm eating a donut because Jenna brought donuts.
I did. I brought some country biscuit donuts. And
they're really good.
I'm watching Hannah get icing all over her shirt.
You know what? At least I'm not getting it on my laptop.
This is very true.
We're also drinking some scandalous wine.
It is scandalous.
From Aldi. Do you want to tell everyone what you thought it was called?
Well, Jarek was holding up the bottle, and I thought it said quarter clit. It actually says quarter cut. Yeah. But I think I'm going to refer to it as the clit wine.
The clit wine. It's pretty good.
It has a good ring to it.
It does. And if we ever make wine,
we can call it the quarter clit.
The quarter clit.
Perfect. It's not a bad wine.
It's not bad for $8 from Aldi.
No. Cab Sav. Where's it from? California, 2020. Perfect.
Perfect. The year of our Lord. 2020. The year everything went to shit. Okay. So, this is Jenna's first appearance on the podcast.
It is.
Shall not be her last.
Nope.
Because as much as we said that we were going to plan and schedule, I didn't do that. And so yesterday I was like, hey, Jenna, can you come to my house and record tomorrow?
And I said yes.
So here we are. And I don't know that I have any announcements, so I'm just going to jump in.
Sounds good.
Okay. Ironically, this is a story from New Orleans. I'm going to say it's in honor of Katy not being here. This is a New Orleans episode. I will probably be mispronouncing a lot of stuff, so...
Right.
You can jump in there anytime. So in 1836, there was a 3.5-story mansion with a raised basement built at 716 Dauphine Street. That's the first word. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing correct.
I don't know how you're spelling it, so.
Dauphine? Dauphine?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll go with that.
Which is in New Orleans, obviously. And it had been commissioned by a wealthy Philadelphia-born dentist named Joseph Coulon Gardet, and it was designed by a local architect named Frederick Roy as Gardet's personal home. However, after a couple years, as rich people tend to do, Gardet was like, I'm tired of this. I'm going to sell it. So,
naturally,
in 1839, he sold it to a wealthy bank manager and plantation owner named Jean-Baptiste Lepret. LaPrette paid $20,049 in 1839, which is the equivalent of $606,000 today, which seems low to me.
Well, with the market being the way it is, maybe that's not factored in.
Yeah, I tried to look, so...
Because a lot of houses are worth a certain amount, but they're actually going for a lot higher.
Yeah, that's true. So I looked...
So maybe.
I looked on Realtor.com.
Ooh.
And the home is still, like, standing.
Okay.
And it's 7,057 square feet. 7,000.
That's big.
It's right in the middle of the French Quarter.
Okay.
It last sold in 2013 for $2.3 million.
Yeah, that seems
more
accurate.
I feel like this guy got a bargain. But also, it said the median listing price in the French Quarter right now is between $450,000 and $500,000, which didn't seem, I don't know.
Well, most houses in the French Quarter are not over
Huge
7,000 square feet. So let's look. I bet if we looked up the average home, it's probably a lot smaller.
That's probably
so that
true.
would make more sense.
I guess I probably should have looked up the average price per square foot.
Yeah, that would have been
more helpful. Oh well.
That's okay. Live and learn.
Jarek, if you want to fact check that and drop it in, you're more than welcome to. We always said we needed someone like Night Classy. They have their producers like always on mic and can fact check as they go. One day we'll have that.
Yeah.
If we have a quieter chair and if we think Jarek has the ability to stay completely silent while we record.
You need a separate room.
Yeah, we do. We need an actual recording studio.
Exactly.
Okay, so Jean-Baptiste is living at 716 Dauphine, and he is also a plantation owner. So they split their time between their, like, in-town mansion and their plantation, which is at Plaquemines Parish, which I really wanted. I looked up that pronunciation. And I really wanted it to be more French because it's spelled like with a Q. It looks like it should be like Plaquemine. I don't know. You're Canadian. You do the French better.
Plaquemine.
But it's not. It's Plaquemine. So they're splitting their time between the plantation and like their fancy home. And then something called the Civil War happened. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Fun fact here, I'm Canadian, so Hannah's going to give me some education on the side, but she's being facetious right now.
But sometimes you don't know some things that I forget. You don't.
Okay, but I know there was a Civil War.
Also, a fun fact, we learned recently that a bunch of Canadian prime ministers were named Mackenzie, right?
First or last name.
Yeah, there's like 4 of them.
4 or 5, yeah.
And then after a certain point, they were all sirs, right? They were all knighted.
I think it was like the first 7 out of 8 prime ministers of Canada had been knighted. At that time, we were still a colony.
This is true.
We were not a separate country.
Okay, well, the Civil War happens.
Actually, that's a lie. We were a separate country, so...
I don't know what the difference, honestly, is.
Not educational to this podcast. It doesn't.
We are in future going to be doing like a Canadian theme. So Jenna's going to do an episode herself. Yeah. And then I think we'll probably do another one where I do some kind of Canadian themed. Yeah. So we'll get into Canada culture.
Yeah.
At some point.
We will.
So Civil War, it's the 1860s.
Perfect.
And
so he's owned the house for 21 years then. Because he bought it in 39.
Yeah,
right?
You're right.
Okay.
He did.
Okay.
I guess when a Civil War happens, your economy goes to shit. So the economy tanked, and suddenly the LaPrette family was like, okay, we need to tighten our belts and probably get rid of one of our homes.
Ooh.
They're like, it's a little rough to have 2 homes. We'll get rid of one. So he's like, all right, we'll keep the plantation, because I guess they really thought they were, which probably was a poor choice in retrospect, because it's like, okay, well, you lost, so what are you going to do with your plantation where you don't have to pay your workers? So he puts up 716 Dauphine on the market, and he puts it up for rent. So he's like, I'm not going to sell it. I'm just going to get some passive income from it.
Okay.
And he is soon approached by a Middle Eastern man who claimed that he was the brother of a sultan who was interested in renting the mansion. I see some red flags because I feel like if you're literally the Sultan of a country, you should be buying a mansion, but I don't know. Also, this is the part of the story where this part is more folklore. So there's different versions going forth. Everything before this, fact. For sure. Everything after this is like, okay, maybe.
Maybe this was like the 1800s version of catfishing.
There's another version that says the man who was interested in renting the home claimed that he was a Middle Eastern prince, but it turns out he was actually the disgraced brother of a sultan, and he had been stripped of his title and banished from whatever kingdom he was from. So,
okay.
Either way, we have a wealthy man from the Middle East who is supposed to be seen as like mysterious and exotic. And LaPrette doesn't care. He's like, whatever, sign the paperwork. I gotta go. There's a war happening.
Give me your money.
Give me your money. Sign the paperwork. And he's like, I'm gonna go back to the plantation and live there. So the Sultan, who is living at this mansion, in another version, they call him Suleiman. I'm just gonna call him the Sultan because I feel like that's better. So when he moved in, he made it this whole big thing. So a ship arrived, and all the locals, like, gathered around. And first to come off the ship were these beautiful women who were dressed in the finest silks and satins. And then there were male servants and or eunuchs. I don't really know how you can tell just by looking at someone if they're a eunuch or not. But they were all dressed in military uniforms and carrying swords. And then they had expensive furniture and decor. They had beds, vases, rugs, paintings, all sorts of stuff. And then the Sultan himself, who is no doubt dressed in, like, his full regalia, looking very, like, fancy and rich.
Of course. Bright colors.
Yeah, you know.
Might be carried off on a... What are those called? Right now I'm picturing the Aladdin parade in my head.
Is it called a litter?
Something.
I don't know. I'm thinking of the Aladdin parade, too.
Yeah, that's literally what you're describing.
Although he came in on a elephant, didn't
yes.
he?
Yes.
Abu got turned into an elephant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But the rest of it.
Yeah, basically that. Yeah. And so they, like, march through, like, they're literally marching from the boat, the 4 blocks, I think, to the house. So Absolutely. They, like, go all around. It's like a parade. Everyone's watching.
Parade. Yeah.
And they go in the house and they close the doors, and that's it. So over the next few months, the house became the center of attention. There were lavish parties that were thrown almost every night. There were sounds of laughing, drinking, and other activities.
Something to do with this wine.
Something to do with the wine, perhaps. So everyone could hear all this stuff going on. They were like, there's crazy parties going on. They could always smell opium wafting through the open windows.
Okay.
So really having a good time. But the parties were super exclusive, and no one really knew how to get an invite. So, like, everyone talked about it, but they're like, but we can't actually go to them. There was just, like, I don't know who was going to them, but they were like, the locals were not invited. So, locals were also just not allowed inside at all. If they wanted, for some reason, to bring the Sultan a gift, they had to leave it on the steps. And even if someone was just, like, delivering goods, they had to leave them on the steps, and then payment would appear in its place the next morning, which I think is kind of a dick move, because if I'm, like, door dashing your food and I leave it on your steps, I'm not just going to be like, all right, so you're going to pay me tomorrow morning, right? I'm going to come back.
Well, it's like there's more trust back then, I would think.
Maybe there shouldn't have been. This episode of The Tales We Tell is brought to you by the Crafty Criminologist. Do you love cute and creepy stationery and stickers? What about ghoulish earrings and adorable ghosts? Then check out The Crafty Criminologist on Etsy and Instagram. She makes stickers, jewelry, study guides, and more. Just go to etsy.com and search @craftycriminologist and be sure to use code TheTalesWeTell at checkout for 15% off your order. That's TheTalesWeTell for 15% off. So, sex parties are happening. Sex and drugs parties.
Get back to the quarter clit.
Sorry. The quarter clit is
this is very...
appropriate.
Appropriate, because we're in the French Quarter.
French Quarter.
Sex parties, we got clit.
Clits, hopefully, are being involved. It is the 1860s, so...
Wait, this is right. Well,
I don't know if they had
discovered... Isn't that the time of hysteria?
Had they been invented yet?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it was in the 1800s, so I'm gonna...
Okay. When someone finally discovered the clit.
Or the vibrator.
Oh, man. I have to remind myself sometimes that my parents do listen to this
Maybe they should not listen to the ones I'm in.
Fair warning, Mom and Dad. Mostly Dad, and then Stephanie, Jarek's mom, listens. Okay. So one night, a huge storm hits New Orleans. I don't know if it was a hurricane. I don't know if it was just a bad storm. But New Orleans is famously not situated in a great place for storms.
Yeah.
Storm comes through. Everyone in the French Quarter is like hunkering down. Like they've boarded up their homes. They're just waiting it out. But the Sultan's palace, it has become known, is just carrying on as normal. You know, why let the orgy stop just because of a little rain?
Exactly.
And the following morning, the sky was clear, and a man happened to be walking down the street. Everything, you know, that calm after the storm. He's walking down the street, probably looking at, like, stuff that got blown over. And he noticed something strange about the Sultan's palace. Number one, it was deadly quiet. And number two, there was blood running down the front steps and pooling in the streets. And
yeah, that's just a little bit odd.
It's just a small,
small detail.
Could be wine. I mean, this quarter clit is a nice dark red.
It is.
If we poured it down the steps, it might look like blood.
All right. I don't want to waste it.
I don't want to waste it either. So this man, thankfully, is like a smart person in the story, and he's like, let me get the police. Let me not investigate on my own. So the police come to the palace and they go inside, and what they found was slightly disturbing. Not a single person was alive. There were corpses just everywhere. Some of the bodies had been flayed, which I think is when the skin is removed.
Mm-hmm.
Some had missing limbs. I don't know if the limbs were also there, or they were just torsos or whatever. And the Sultan was nowhere to be found inside. And so they went outside into the courtyard, and the ground had been freshly tilled and turned into mud in the storm. And among all of the mud, there was a single hand sticking out of the ground, and it was the Sultan who had been buried alive. This is also a legend, so in other versions, instead of being buried alive, the Sultan had just disappeared. Some versions say that he had been buried alive and then his brother had disappeared. So, like, maybe the brother did it. Whatever the version, the murders were never solved. They don't have, like, a concrete, it's just, like, a mysterious, like, all these people were found, like, horribly murdered. Okay, so historically speaking, this didn't actually happen. There was not a massacre that's in any historical records that happened at 716 Dauphine, a.k.a. the Sultan's Palace, a.k.a. the Gardet-Lepret House, which is what it's called now. There were some mildly tragic things that happened involving the home, but, like, very mild compared to the story I just told. So one is that Jean-Baptiste Lepret had helped found the Citizens Bank in the parlor of his home. And then in 1878, that same bank foreclosed on his house, which is just kind of ironic.
I was going to say.
And then in the 1940s, the house had been turned into the New Orleans Academy of Art, but they were forced to close because so many of the students were being drafted in the war in the 40s, which, I mean, is sad.
So do they not have a record of who owned the house when they think the Sultan did?
Well, I mean, the Leprets owned it until 78.
Or not owned, but like rented. I
don't think so, because I don't think anyone...
No wonder their plantation was lost, too. Yeah. They keep terrible records. Yeah,
terrible record keeping. There's no record of anyone Sultan-y living there. But, interestingly, there are... Oh, wait, I do have a little history here. Sorry, I forgot. I wrote this down. Not of who owned it or who lived there. So it was foreclosed in 1878, and then in the 1940s, the Academy of Art was there. I tried to see if it was like, if after that it was abandoned or if it was turned into a homeless shelter, because all I saw was it was home to homeless people. Oh, okay. And so I'm like, I don't know if it was officially that or if it was an abandoned building that homeless people... What year
was this?
This was between the 40s and the 60s.
I'm guessing it was just abandoned.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, because think about it, in the 40s, that was when World War II.
Yeah.
And then afterwards...
What other wars happened after World War II?
The Vietnam War?
I was just testing your American history knowledge.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, after the war, the economy, as we already talked about, it was probably just abandoned and people were using it.
Probably.
I mean, that makes sense.
It does make sense. Because then in the 60s, 1966, it was purchased by a Frank D'Amico and Anthony Vesicu Sr. Anthony.
Anthony Sr. Tony Sr.
Tony Sr. and Frank purchased it. They renovated it and they converted it into condos, which is what it is today. Even though we know that, like, this weird history isn't historically accurate, there are still, like, pretty prominent ideas that it is haunted. So here's a few things that have happened. So in 1975, Mrs. D'Amico, Frank's wife, so they were living in the penthouse on the top floor, obviously. And while she was getting ready for bed, she saw a dark shadow figure at the foot of her bed. And it came towards her, but then it disappeared when she turned the lights on. So, depending on what you believe about shadow people or just shadows and how they work.
How about when we turn on the light, the shadow disappears?
Well, I'm like, yeah, when you turn on the light, you're not going to see it anymore.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what I was saying.
There was a woman named Nina Nevins who reported that personal items, keys in particular, would go missing inside her home when she lived there. I don't know if she was a resident or if she at one point owned it after Frank and Tony owned it. Because they, like, turned it into condos and then it's just remained condos. I don't know if it has stayed in their ownership.
Got it.
So... But she had also said, like, she didn't feel any, like, negative presence, but she noticed stuff would go missing when she was there.
In her specific condo.
Yes. There is a resident who witnessed, this is kind of mean, I don't love this. He was going down into the basement/laundry area, and his dog was with him, and he saw his dog get pushed down the stairs. Yeah, which, not here for that. The dog is okay.
Pushed by what?
But then it also says, oh yeah, the dog was also afraid of the living room. And I'm like, yeah, understandably, it got pushed down the stairs in the damn house. I'd be afraid of the living room too. Paranormal enthusiasts have concluded that there are 2 main ghosts in the mansion, none of which are related to the Sultan at all.
Imagine.
So there's a Confederate soldier, and what I read on I think it's the New Orleans Ghost Tour website, they're like, the Confederate soldier has been seen, like, by a bunch of people, but it's strange because there weren't any Civil War battles that were fought there. But then they were like, but there is something spooky about it, but we're not going to tell you. You have to go on the tour. So, I don't know.
Maybe he grew up there or something.
Maybe. They also see a woman who they said used to live there, just chilling out, I guess.
Did she die while living there?
I guess. I mean, I don't know. Here are some other things that are related to the Sultan, which, again, don't make sense if the Sultan was a completely made-up story. Okay. Past residents have allegedly reported seeing a man dressed in, quote, Middle Eastern clothes on the walls of the building. They've heard screaming and shrieking. They have heard, quote, body parts hitting the floor. I want to know, how do you distinguish between a body part hitting the floor and anything else hitting the floor?
I was just going to say, let me just go drop a few things.
If you could go out and drop a number of things and then drop a body part and see...
Let me cut off one of Jarek's arms and just...
Perfect. When he gets back, we'll ambush him.
Perfect.
The axe is outside.
Perfect. You have a murder set up in your home just waiting to be happening.
Technically, that is waiting for someone to break into our home with the axe.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, that's what last week's episode I told Jarek. I was like, axe murders happen because people find axes in accessible locations and
then come inside.
Yeah, and then use them to... Anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so in addition to the extremely distinctive sound of body parts hitting the floor, people have heard the sound of chimes and they have smelled incense, I guess, like on the street when it looked like no one was home. Which, again, my question, if it's a condo...
Chimes are going to go off because of the wind.
Yes. No, but only ghost ones.
Oh, okay,
these were special ghost chimes, actually.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I did not realize that.
You didn't do your research before
coming
on here.
I just showed up. I was unprepared.
And then this says, like, you're walking by a place, you look at it, a place that is at least 4 apartments. You're like, oh, no one looks like they're home in any of the 4 apartments, which how often does that happen? And then you smell incense and assume it's coming from that house.
Because it couldn't be because they have, like, a Scentsy or something.
Yeah. Also, you're in the middle of the French Quarter. Like, that smell could be coming from anywhere.
Yeah.
I assume. And then people have also reported seeing the figure of a man looking out the window, which, again, I would say it's a condo. So it could just be that man with the dog who's looking out the window being like...
Hey.
But that is the story of the Sultan's Palace.
Hmm.
And I'm adding it to my list of places I want to go. And...
That would be fun.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of haunted places in New Orleans.
There are.
Now I feel like I could realistically buy a home there. I usually make Katy do our socials. Do you know them? Do you want to guess them?
At The Tales We Tell is Instagram.
You're close.
I was trying. At The Tales We Tell podcast?
Yes.
Okay. And then thetaleswetellpodcast.com is the website.
Uh-huh.
I don't do Twitter, so I don't know your Twitter.
Oh, we got rid of our Twitter because
Okay,
I wasn't updating it.
What other one am I? Facebook?
Facebook.
The Tales We Tell podcast.
Yep.
And you have an email.
We have an email.
I don't know that one.
It's the Tales We Tell podcast at gmail.com.
There you go. There you go.
We also have a Patreon if anyone wants to become a patron. It's only $5 a month, and you get access to episodes a day early. You get access to all bonus content, and you get goodies and our undying love. That is at patreon.com. Just search the Tales We Tell podcast. And then we also have merch on our Redbubble if you want that. We have new stickers. We have 3 new sticker designs. We also have 2 fun new little logo things that you can put on tote bags and shirts and stuff. And that is if you go to redbubble.com and just search the Tales We Tell podcast and figure out how to go into the store and search the logos. You guys are smart. You can figure it out.
Technology. Savvy.
So yeah, it was kind of short today, but
It was. I was thinking that.
kind of glad because I'm tired and I don't.
Me too. I want to have a nap today.
I
It's
do
Sunday
too.
and I want a nap.
Jenna hasn't actually changed clothes since last night.
Nope. I am still in my pajamas. And it is lovely.
It is wonderful. So yeah, you guys will see her again.
Yeah.
Maybe next week. Maybe some other time. You know, we're just playing it by ear at this point.
Absolutely.
But thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.